Hi, good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Dave Miller here, President at eMAM, and we're very excited about our partnership with LucidLink. And thanks for logging in today, and so we can share that with you. I have with me today Anand Dua, he's our VP of Sales, and Scott Miller, he's our Director of Business Development for LucidLink. And presenting today will be Chuck Bulow, he's our VP of Business Development. If you have any questions, throw them in the question or chat windows, and happy to see if we can answer them during, and certainly hold them for the end for Q&A. We will record today's session, and if you let us know if you want a copy of the video or if you want a copy of the slide deck. With no further ado, let me turn it over to Chuck Bulow.
All right, thanks, Dave. So we're going to go through a few slides here just to kind of give you an idea of what the combo is with our partnership with LucidLink and being able to use eMAM in the cloud, and then also doing full production in the cloud as well with using the LucidLink technology. So we'll go through a few slides here. It's kind of the agenda today. We're going to talk about some of the challenges that we're faced today. Pretty crazy world we live in. So, we've got to get through all this, but we definitely have to make some adjustments on kind of how we produce and share media and produce media and then deliver media as well. Kind of talk through some of the technology that's available for us to use using the eMAM technology as well as cloud and then LucidLink as well in combo. And then, of course, we'll, kind of produce some of the solutions for you just to kind of give you an idea of what is possible using all this technology together. So kind of looking at today's world, again, this has not changed much, but, global shooters, photographers, pretty much anywhere and everywhere around the world. And then, always that challenge of where do I upload and how do I upload that media into a central location where everybody can get access to it. And then, typically what happens is our editors sit around, wait idle for the media, to arrive and get to a place where they can actually start cutting and editing. Those edit bays just kind of sit idle in that situation. And then, the idea really is how do we tie all this together with getting the media to one location, centralize it, and then allows people to start collaborating and editing on projects kind of going forward here. And then some of the demands here, again, tying different systems together. That old situation with VPN or remote access or delivery, and how do we get to the media? How do we access the media to edit, and then how do we deliver that? And then, of course, securely being able to grab that media, download it, or just not download and share that content and make it available for editing. And then, of course, when we do produce different content, if you can, somebody could put themselves on mute, that'd be great. When you basically produce that content, being able to then go in and share that media, view with proxy links and things like that before it goes out. And then, of course, when you want to finish and then QC it, having that ability to kind of QC the media kind of going forward. Now, with the eMAM platform, I'm sure a number of you have heard of eMAM and looking at the platform, but really the idea with eMAM is that we acquire media with live media, with content that's file-based, shared media, stored, delivered via Aspera Signiant and, different delivery platforms as well. We do organize all the media. For the most part, we manage it based on some of your file folder structures. If not, you can create your own within the eMAM system. We call them categories, and being able to assign the media to one or multiple categories and then set permissions based on that, who gets to see the media and then what they get to do with the media. And then, of course, which is most important today that we're talking about, which is create using the Adobe Suite, and then being able to create the media and produce the media as well, and then deliver that media. That's really important. Once we're done with the projects and so on, being able to actually deliver that media to one or multiple locations via social media, all the way through to broadcast or VOD sets and so on. And then having lots of options for the archive setup, so locally or in the cloud or their combination of. So the eMAM platform is really nice, where we can actually place this platform in the cloud in a hybrid mode. We'll talk about this here in a second. and then of course, all in the cloud as well as an option. So, looking at remote sites, the idea really is to have some type of, system where things are centrally located. And the idea really is that if we place things in a central location, then we'll have edit bays that have access to it. Now, in a typical environment, you're connected directly to that SAN with high-speed storage and connection, and then of course you can edit full res and red files and all sorts of high-quality stuff. In a remote situation, you're typically downloading that media locally, and that could be actually in a proxy view or the original media, and you can localize it. And then again, as we talk through the eMAM system, you can check out media as well or projects as well, and then be able to edit that media and then deliver that. If you're in the S3 cloud and have everything centralized there as well, the same concept goes where you're downloading proxy or the original file. There's also technology where you have, PCOIP type technology, with a virtual workstation. This can get expensive and cost a lot of you're basically just getting pixel downloads, your downloads to your local edit bay, and all the technology, all the Adobe suites and so on is up in the cloud. In this environment, this is strictly just a Windows environment. So that's kind of one thing that's maybe a caveat there for those of you who are on Mac. We do have situations where we have a lot of customers on Mac and editing, so we'll show you how that's done through LucidLink. Okay. And in the remote locations, again, if you're just going strictly with like the LucidLink technology, this is great. So the idea really here is that all the media is actually uploaded to the LucidLink location using their file system in connection. And with that, they're able to edit and edit original or proxy files that are stored in an S3 bucket. With the LucidLink and a client software running locally on the system, you're able to then connect with that LucidLink or that storage location. Being able to typically edit off S3, LucidLink in their file system gives you that ability to actually then edit and edit directly to that. And you're physically mounting your system here, like I'll show you today, how we're physically mounted to the LucidLink location in the cloud on an S3 bucket, and so on. So in LucidLink, I set up file spaces, and we'll talk about shares and things here in a second. But the idea is that with this connection, with my login with LucidLink, I'm connecting directly to that S3 bucket and then editing files directly off that S3 bucket. Now, this is how simple it is. I went to LucidLink. Scott and I actually met a year and a half ago at NAB, and we talked about this technology and so on. He said, just go ahead and go to LucidLink on the booth. We actually just went ahead and I signed up, added a terabyte of storage. I created a user with that. I also created a share, and I uploaded some media up to that location, and then we connected it with our eMAM system, and away we went. The idea really here is that through their setup with user definable situations, you can do it through their user management system, or we can actually do a combination of eMAM's login credentials and so on, and their credentials as well, to kind of control who gets to mount what and gets to see what in certain different projects. So it actually gets pretty granular when you start thinking about it, when we start laying things out. And in that case here now, with LucidLink and that account, now I can have one or multiple users then now connecting to that same S3 bucket, or multiple buckets. It doesn't matter really. It's up to you on how many you want to add. But then I'm now sharing this location. Each client software is located on each system. They log in, they mount, and they start cutting and editing without any downloads. And that's really the key purpose there. So Scott, why don't you kind of give us an idea, just kind of overview of some of the LucidLink technology?
Great, thanks, Chuck. Happy to do that. And thanks everybody for joining. I'm very excited to be on the webinar today and working with eMAM. As Chuck said, we've been working together as partners for about a year and a half now, and it's been great. The thing with LucidLink is that essentially what we do is we enable you to use that storage in the cloud via the local mount point, as Chuck said, as if it's local storage. And it doesn't matter if you're accessing it with Windows, Mac, or Linux OS, they all connect through the local mount point in Windows, let's call it the L drive. And it's designed to work over distance, and it mitigates the latency by only serving up parts of the file that the application requests on demand. So we're streaming it very similar to the way Netflix would stream a movie, only we're doing it up and down in a production setting. So you can have the LucidLink client installed on your local laptop. You can have it installed in, your server, and it works just like as if you went and bought an external hard drive and you plugged it into your USB and it becomes your D drive. It's the L drive, only it's object storage on the back end. And it can be any S3 compatible object storage, like AWS and Azure Blob as well. So if you compare it to some of the other technologies out there, everybody else that is using the native format of one file equals one object, they have to move that data back and forth between the object storage and a local cached location or a local cached hardware machine in order to get it closer to the users to try and reduce that latency, because the NFS, CIFS, and SMB protocols are designed to work over a local network. They're not designed to work over a WAN. And when you start to introduce distance, that's when you get into problems. And so, your file sync and shares, your cloud gateways, they're all trying to move the data faster. And we do that as well, but in addition, our unique format allows you to move less of the data and only stream that data back and forth between the application and the object store as required by the application. So there's no syncing, no downloading. It's just random read and write capabilities the same way you would have to your local disk. And this gets into a little bit of the technology, and I won't dive too deep into this, but the important thing to understand here is that we operate the metadata service as a SaaS service. And so with LucidLink, all you need to do is all of your users can go to LucidLink, they can download the client as Chuck showed earlier, they can use that client then to access the drive, the share, the volumes. And when they do that, our service is working with the object store on the back end. And the important thing here is that it can be the customer's own object store. So, the customer can have their own S3 environment. It can be on-premise or it can be in the cloud. There's a variety of different storage options that are available to you. And again, we're streaming that data on demand as the application requires it. We're mitigating the costs associated with egress to a great extent, and giving the user, depending on their bandwidth, of course, the feel that they're working off of local disk. In fact, we've had some customers say that their experience is as fast as when they were working with a local NAS.
Great. All right, thanks, Scott. We'll kind of get into now some of the specifics. And by the way, this was some of the list of storage locations and so on that LucidLink is kind of working with right now, and so on as an option. All right. Now, kind of let's get into a little bit how eMAM kind of works together with LucidLink in this situation here. So, you know, when you have LucidLink and then you have all the different locations in the S3 bucket, like I have here set up for our system, you know, of course, you have all the media there, but it's, you know, not organized, or maybe it's organized in folders and so on, but you're not really organizing and managing all your projects and your media and so on. If you want to find and search for something, it makes things a little bit difficult. So what we've done now is looking at adding and combining eMAM and LucidLink and that technology and that ability to edit remotely. We can now store and manage and organize all the media in that S3 bucket. And we'll talk about how it's connected with LucidLink and so on. But, you know, organize again, everything based on, you know, the categories here with the file folder structures and so on that we can manage. We also manage all the projects of Adobe Premiere and all the Adobe suites and so on. So we give that ability really to go in and kind of manage that entire setup and configuration and all your media, everything that's stored up in the cloud. And what we've done now is we've taken an eMAM system, which I'll show you today, basically an eMAM system connected to an S3 bucket, but using the mount point LucidLink. So one of your storage locations could be, or all of your storage could be using LucidLink as a file system and connecting to your S3 bucket. That then gives you the ability to then connect that LucidLink client using the LucidLink technology, and, you know, just having a typical web connection into the eMAM system for searching with our director, eMAM director, and so on. But the idea is that we're running all the Adobe Premiere applications locally on a desktop or a laptop here, and then you have that mount point directly to that location. And so you can, as basically what you're doing is importing and exporting all the media through the panel, and so on. We'll show that here in a second and so on. So there's different combinations too that you can do. So if you wanted to put a workspace in the cloud and actually run from a workspace in the cloud, you can do that as well. So having LucidLink connection there, having the ability to, you know, connect remotely, where all of the power now is up in the cloud. So your workstation, your edit station, you know, editing media and so on, that workspace would then connect directly to the LucidLink location. And then, of course, through the web connection, being able to search within eMAM and find that product as well that you're looking for your next production, and so on. So, you know, you can run fully remotely, or you can actually run, you know, workspaces in the cloud, let's say, in this case here, and then your web connection really is your connection to the workspace in that environment. There's other ways we could also do it here where we have all the different file spaces, and let's say that everything is stored up in the cloud in an S3 bucket, but it's not linked to LucidLink, okay? And maybe what you want to do is have, you know, maybe contractors and so on working on projects and so on. We can actually then deliver from eMAM, from an S3 bucket, to a workspace that's mounted to the eMAM system as a delivery point. And so those file spaces then become a location. Once you deliver that media, we're out of the picture at that point on the eMAM side. But again, on the LucidLink side, then they have the local, you know, system connected via the web application. And then, of course, also the Adobe Premiere and the full Adobe suite would be running locally on the remote side. And then, of course, you have your edit bays mounting point, and you see edit bay 1, edit bay 2, edit bay 3. The idea really there is that you can mount multiple locations and deliver to multiple locations based on maybe different contractors, you know, and different permission levels. So the permission levels, both in LucidLink and also in eMAM, give you a little bit more control as to who gets to see and what within this file system there as well. There's also a point I wanted to bring up as well. So we do have a connection with LucidLink and also Final Cut Pro. So you do have the ability to use our new extension panel through Final Cut and then connect directly to a project, running Final Cut locally, and then, of course, connecting to the media directly without doing any kind of downloading, and then editing directly from there. Now, some of the deployments of eMAM, this is kind of interesting. We have a SaaS model. Those are directly connected to S3 buckets and so on. So you can just turn on an eMAM system today. Those would not include a LucidLink connection. Those would be just a very out-of-the-box kind of connection. If you want to go ahead and customize a little bit, add the LucidLink technology to your system, we would run a pass model. And in that case there, the customer or your system integrator brings to the table the servers, and then of course the LucidLink accounts and so on, and we start customizing that environment like I'm going to show you here today. So those are a couple of options for us as well. We do operate also in a hybrid mode. So if you do want to store things locally and edit locally, you can do so. But then you also have the mount points that you can do with LucidLink. This gets a little complicated. I don't want to get too many details here, but the idea really is there's a lot of flexibility. So some customers want to work locally, manage that locally, but maybe in some cases they're going to go remote. Some of the media can be moved into the eMAM system and storage in the cloud, and then we can manage media from there and manage projects on a remote basis as well. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Just to kind of give you an idea, we do work with most of the cloud vendors that are out there. So, you know, running eMAM system and connecting to an S3 bucket or any one of the storage services that you use, we can connect and run eMAM in these different cloud environments. And then, of course, also connect directly to your LucidLink accounts as well on that. Scott, you want to kind of give us an idea on this use case?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting use case, and one of our favorite customers. They signed up and they had very poor internet. He actually told me that when he first signed up, that he was only dealing with like a terabyte down and kilobytes up. So it just goes to show that we really do utilize the bandwidth very efficiently and make it possible for even folks with less than ideal bandwidth to be able to access files from the cloud. The problem with this particular customer was that they're a collective of freelancers and contractors that are working remotely, of course, as we all are now, and the folks needed to have assets that were accessible to them, that they could also share with their colleagues remotely, and then when they were done editing, they needed to render the files and such. So there was a lot going on, and for various folks to have to download everything and make their edits and then do the rendering and then upload them to somewhere else, you know, where somebody could get access to them via a kind of sync and share model, just really wasn't working very effectively. Also, the product that this customer was using was basically for virtual graduation ceremonies with like high schools and such. And so, you know, it had to be a very easy ingest process. They were getting a lot of, you know, videos and pictures from various sources, and they had to have a central place where they could easily put everything, edit from that location, then distribute to other users from that same location. And they just found that it was taking a long time, and it was very difficult and frustrating. When they found LucidLink, they were able to quickly get access to their assets. They could instantly share and collaborate on the same assets and the same projects. They could quickly transfer files from one individual to another, so that they could then do central, very fast rendering. And all in all, the result was that they were able to greatly reduce the amount of time that it took for editors. They were able to get their work done much easier, and they were able to reduce the overall time spent by about 85%. So, and we've seen this across other opportunities as well.
Great, thanks, Scott. And then just kind of to give you an idea of some of our customers, you know, one of our customers at Spectrum Reach, they're actually utilizing the AWS platform right now, utilizing, you know, B-roll and so on being uploaded to S3 buckets as well, and then being able to provide the organization through the eMAM system, all of their content, their media, their users, and so on. So it gives them a lot of abilities to actually go in and store all the media in a centralized location, and then of course edit from eMAM system or bringing it down from the eMAM system, being able to find that content and so on, and editing off proxies or originals as well. So again, this is one of our clients that actually goes full boat on AWS. Some of our other clients as well that are working within the system. We've got a lot of opportunity now also within the live environment where folks are actually encoding up into the cloud and actually can start trimming and cutting and editing from content from a live stream up into the cloud there as well. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly jump over to Adobe Premiere. Through the eMAM system, we have our extension panel, and so hopefully you can see all this. Things are quite small here, but the idea really here is with this panel that Adobe has done a great job with, giving us the ability to kind of look at different projects, manage all the different types of projects that are out there, and so on. We're actually then now looking into the eMAM system in the cloud, and then all of my media is actually stored up into the eMAM cloud system. And so what I can do is through our LucidLink location, and I showed you earlier, we had Edit Bay 1 and so on the organization. Being a user, I could narrow things down to when somebody logs in, they would only see Edit Bay 1. They would only see the content then stored in Edit Bay 1 and stored in the physical location on Edit Bay 1 in my share of LucidLink. So the combo between, which is great, between their user permission levels on the mounting points, and then of course our user levels here within eMAM, they're able to then go ahead and only see what they're supposed to see. The nice thing about the eMAM system as well, I can then go in based on that organization of those categories and projects. I can also then go in and search specifically for what I'm looking for in the media and so on. And then when I do find something, in here, I can go in and grab the city street and then hit import. And the great thing about it now is because I'm mounted onto the LucidLink location, you'll see, and let me open up my Finder here real quick. If I click on the LucidLink location, this is where I'm connected to. So specifically I can see, or if I logged in specifically for Edit Bay 1 user, all I would see is Edit Bay 1 and just the content I'm able to edit and play with. At that point, I don't have to localize it, and then I can bring in the original as well. Now, to save time and money and how quick it is and how poor my internet connection is here, I don't want to try it out here, but we can go in and start looking at the content. And with my poor connection on my laptop here, I'm actually then now to stream one or multiple layers of content directly from the LucidLink storage up in my S3 bucket. At this point, what I can do is my full production with all of my media. I can go and search for extra media based on a category, based on an individual asset. You can actually go in also and quickly look at different assets and so on before you import those as well. But I can then also go in and export it back out to the eMAM system, where in the eMAM system now, if I log back in here, and I want my fingerprint, we'll do that and kind of look at it here. With this, I'm able to actually go in and then manage all of those different projects and all that media all through the eMAM platform. So what this does, though, is it gives me kind of a bonus of organization and management of all of my media and all of my projects using in combination with eMAM and kind of the LucidLink technology. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what we do. And Dave, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and we'll see if we have any questions.
Sure. I mean, the first is obviously that GoToMeeting is a little beyond our scope, so apologizes for the glitches in the GoToMeeting portal. But hopefully that'll show up okay in the recording because Chuck's demo glitched a little bit there. But we'd love you to try LucidLink on your own without GoToMeeting and see how it works for you. Yeah, so let's see if there's any other questions we can go into. Happy to answer them for you. In terms of getting eMAM and getting LucidLink, what's the best way to order those or ask more questions?
Was that for
yes.
Scott?
Yeah, for both of you, but go ahead.
Well, this is Scott. From the standpoint of LucidLink, it's very easy. You simply can go to our website. You can create an account. You can download the client, and then once you download the client, you can use applications like Adobe Premiere or the Adobe Suite out of the box. You can sign up for the eMAM service and use the eMAM service and the Adobe preview pane within that service to do all of your editing and tagging. Pretty much works as you would expect it to work with local disk.
And then one question did come in with, which OS you could use. I mean, I'm on a Mac here, running Adobe Premiere on a Mac, and so you can run both Mac and PC and Linux and Windows on it. So the combo, as far as the purchase goes as well, like getting the LucidLink account and so on, and then probably utilizing eMAM in a pass mode, and setting up the pass license and then setting up your servers and storage location. And then our team can actually help along with LucidLink to configure your systems to work directly with the LucidLink technology in your eMAM system.
Okay, question for Chuck. Can we use eMAM as multiple user access?
Yes. So that's in combination with, how granular you want to be. You want to, narrow it down to only a couple of users logging in and only seeing a specific location on the LucidLink file space. You create basically shares. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this, but with this, I've actually created multiple shares within my system, and I can actually log in and edit that and add multiple shares to the system.
Sure.
And then with that, then being able to connect. And then with that, the mounting point is typically controlled by the LucidLink, users, and then the access to the content would be controlled through eMAM system, and we can connect the two. So like Edit Bay 1 would be Edit Bay 1 in LucidLink and a share. So hopefully I didn't totally confuse you on that. But the idea really is that we kind of narrow things down to what they mount to, and then the multiple users being able to go in and say, I want them connected in a user group to Edit Bay 1 and work on Edit Bay 1 projects. So we can narrow things down even further, within the eMAM system.
Okay. Question for Scott. What's the minimum bandwidth required for LucidLink to work well with edited?
Well, like I said, we had that one customer that was dealing with literally, single-digit megabit connections. But generally, what we see is, in general, our customers are telling us that, if you've got pretty much your standard bandwidth that most of us have through, a Comcast connection or what have you. And because we have the ability to throttle the connections, we can tune the system to be able to work really with any bandwidth out there. And so we find that it's optimal if you've got somewhere between, somewhere around 75 to 100 megabits per second download. And if you're dealing with somewhere between 20 and 20 to 50 megabits per second up, then you're typically not going to have any problems doing most of the work that you need to do. If you have less bandwidth than that, then you may need to use proxies, or you may need to do some other things to adjust to your bandwidth.
Okay. Let me grab the follow-up on that one. Let's jump on that. If I have a 10 gig internet connection locally, would I be able to upload into S3 multiple terabyte at 10 gig speed?
Correct. So what we do is we have parallel connections that get established, and we stream the blocks in parallel connections. So we can saturate any bandwidth that the customer has.
Okay, and follow up to the follow-up, minimum bandwidth required for proxy workflows?
Um, I typically, I consider myself to be a typical user. I have about 250 down and about 15 megabits per second up. So we have some customers that are working with, as little as, well, like I said, in the one case, the extreme case, somebody was working with smaller file sets and pictures and various other types of media, and they only had about a couple megabits per second down and kilobytes up. So it, obviously you need to have decent bandwidth, but really pretty much most home user bandwidths is enough.
Okay. Question probably for both. Single sign-on is supported?
Yes, on eMAM side, yes, on that one.
So on the LucidLink side, that is coming very shortly. It's on our roadmap. We expect it to be out in a matter of weeks, or sometime in the next quarter, for sure. We will have the single sign-on, and we're also working very diligently on Active Directory integration, and we'll have multi-factor authentication out soon as well.
Great. And the effect of using the combined solution on egress fees, streaming fees?
So from the LucidLink standpoint, the great thing is that because we're streaming the blocks on demand only as required by the application, and we're streaming the blocks from the cloud where the file actually lives, we don't need to pull the whole file down and push it all back up. So because we're only streaming the blocks on demand, it mitigates the amount of egress dramatically in a lot of cases.
Chuck, you want to add anything on egress at all?
No, I mean, on our side, if you are working within the same environment or locations based on, like, say, S3, they have regions and so on. If you're working with that, typically we're not doing much on the streaming side. I think would be the only, maybe some egress charges on there. But once the media is uploaded into the system and so on, maybe some streaming, but it's going to be very minimal cost.
Okay. I guess the other parts on eMAM, of course, is a lot of workflows can go to proxies, right? Sharing and review and approval kind of things can go to proxy, and editing can do, either on high res or mezzanine. But yeah, lots of options there. Long question. If I used a LucidLink agent on an AWS VM that was in the same availability zone as the S3 bucket that it was reading writing to, then would that still be an egress charge?
No, typically if you're accessing an S3 bucket in the same region and you're pulling that data out to an EC2 instance, that would not incur egress charges.
Great. Any email alert integration required to get project status update?
I'm sorry, what was that? Could you cut out?
Yeah, I think that might be mine.
Yes.
Are you talking about like any notifications of status updates on a project?
Correct. Yep.
Typically what the eMAM system does is it does require a eMAM or an email account, and so basically what it would be is like your company or corporate account in servers that are running your eMAM or email systems. That when we do send email notifications and so on through workflows and various status updates and things on projects, that we will send an email and utilize your email service or your email system, whatever it is, it could be Google, it could be your own corporate account or Office 365 and that kind of thing. So it would require that if we're going to send notifications via email.
Great. Yeah, thanks everybody for all the questions. If you have any more, please throw them in there or email us later, see if you can stump the chump. But thanks for everybody attending today and all your great questions. We're happy to follow up with that, or we can send a copy of the recording today or email blast. But thank you again, and thank you for your interest. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.